Hey, what's up, lightboltjoe here. Today we are going to discuss the fourth and final season of Netflix's original show, Never Have I Ever. I'm wearing my Paxton Yoshida Hall sweatshirt, circa 2020, during the first season. First season he wore this. I was freaking out. I said, where do I find that? It took me so long to find this exact sweatshirt, but I found it, and I own it, and I've posed with it, and I figured what better way to wrap up the fourth and final season with the Paxton Yoshida Hall sweatshirt from the first season. So I'm going to clarify, this is not his actual one from the actual show. This is the same brand, the same style, the same shirt from someone I bought it from. It's not the actual costume used in the show. Okay, we're going to change that. I don't actually own like a costume prop from a movie. I'm afraid that when I start, I'm not going to stop. So we'll see when that happens. Anyway, fourth and final season of Never Have I Ever, right? Mindy Kaling's show. So 2020, 21, 22, and 23. Here we go, the fourth and final. I keep saying fourth and final because it's just such a beautiful wrap up of these characters we've grown with for the last 4 years. It's been 4 years of this show, and it's been trending, within multiple countries, since it first came out. Number one spot in, I think, top 10 markets or something like that. It's so encompassing within cultural diversity, multiculturalism, and it's just so wonderful to have this show, to have this franchise, within Netflix, a global phenomenon to begin with. But the storytelling of it, the wrapping up of the story, character arcs, the will they won't they's wrapping up at the end, I teared, I got choked up, I got goosebumps with the whole Ben running into the wedding. Oh, bro, it was so wonderful. The closure of Paxton and Davy, the closure of Friends, wonderful. So Michael Semio plays his character of Ethan in the first half of this season. He's not in the last half of the season, he's in the first half of the season. And he gets to be himself. And I'm freaking out because he has a bunch of tattoos on him. And he's like, you know, muscly skater boy kind of, Michael. He plays the guitar and Mike does his stuff, and he's awesome, right? By being a fan of someone for quite some time, the first thing I ever saw him in was Annabelle Comes Home, which was what, 2010 or something like that, 2012. I don't remember when Comes Home actually came out. 2015. I don't remember, but that was the first thing I ever saw him in, and I that was one of like the biggest movies he did at that time, and I was like, wow, this kid's gonna go places, and here we are all these years later. He did three seasons worth of Love, Victor on Disney Plus / Hulu, and he had to be short haired and no facial hair, and all his tattoos had to be covered. And I remember in between season 2 and 3, him and Mason Gooding were going to get tattoos together, and they were like posing and then saying like, oh, so and so's gonna kill us, like the producer of the show. And it was just so funny watching that real life friends doing real life stuff, and to have Michael's character in this show as Ethan, allowing him to keep his tattoos as a senior in high school. It was so awesome. It was just another sense of authenticity. The show's been very authentic, in cultural diversity in general, but having just a real life person not having to cover their tattoos, not having to change anything about themselves, just here's your lines and go do a kickflip. It was wonderful. It was watching Michael on screen. It was just so cool having that sense of authenticity to it. And it's real. It just gives it that real authentic grip. That's what's always been cool about this show. And it's always been heartfelt as well. So it always brought the question of love, brought the question of grief. How do we move on? Do we go back? How do we go forward? Things. And it was really neat having this. Davy catches herself in lies within this, that she didn't get into any college. She was waitlisted for Princeton. She had to resubmit another essay, and then eventually gets in. But that she put a lie in that she clean sweeped all 11 Ivy League schools that she applied to, even though nobody accepted her. So it was interesting. It was interesting having to tackle her feelings with Ben, trying to figure out herself in general. She's hooking up with Ethan for quite some time, but then Trent being a second year senior in the school, and then him and Evelyn breaking up for a bit. Fabiola trying to figure out what school she wants to go to. She want to go to Howard University with their robotics program. Does she want to go to Princeton? She got into Princeton. Could she get into Howard as well? Things, right? uh, Paxton is not having a good time at Arizona State University. You know, he's a senior and he graduated in the third season. So then he drops out and applies to be an assistant coach at Sherman Oaks High School with all his friends who are still there. They're now seniors. They're only a year younger than him. And then he realizes that he does actually want to go into teaching because he helped Evan, you know, with his swimming. So he re-enrolls into Arizona. So everybody goes on their separate ways. And to have Ben get into Columbia and David get into Princeton, and then they can hang out with each other on the weekends or whatever, starting up a new relationship. It was a next step. So I'm very curious if we're going to do a spin-off sequel of like college adventures. That would be pretty neat. It did leave off in a narrative for now kind of a thing. So of course there could be more. There could be a movie follow-up. It's just such a well-done property, especially with Kamala's storyline as well, winding up with Utkarsh Ambakor at the end, you know, the two of them bickering about ice cream. It's just adorable. Nani having her wedding at the end, it's about growth, and it's about understanding and learning and knowing how to move on, or knowing what to learn from what's happened. The past brings you to the present to bring you to the future. What happens next? A bunch of different options. Which one are you going to go to, which then branches into another thing? What's the canon event, which leads to the next canon event within that timeline? It's very interesting. It's a very interesting story. It's a very interesting production, and it's one of those things where you just know that the group has an amazing time on set together, that they have an amazing time filming together, amazing time hanging out together, amazing time doing press together, just being on set together, and everybody posting all these behind the scenes stuff, you know, right as the show came out. After each season, it's just neat because it just feels like your friends are just hanging out and having a good time, and that's a little wind up wrap up to what I was saying, that Michael was allowed to have his tattoos. I would have liked more of his character because it was a good character, good bad boy character within the later part of the season, but it didn't have to happen because his character's story line wrapped up with Davy, and she went on to do Princeton stuff and things, right? Mike needs his own show as himself. No more of this chopping his hair off and covering his tattoos. Let the boy fly. Never Have I Ever, season 4, Netflix original show. Absolutely incredible. I will always love this show, and it's a very binge-worthy kind of show. You're always like, ooh, what happens next, right? Wonderful drama, wonderful comedy, wonderful romance, wonderful story. On to the next review. Mucho mahalo.